Welcome to the Broncos podcast with Troy Rank. I am your host, Troy Rank, columnist for the Denver Post. It is a Victory Friday. Then why is everyone so pissed off in Broncos country? You watch one of the worst offensive performances since, I don't know, a Thursday night back in 2022 when they lost to the Colts. Russell Wilson tried to challenge Stephon Gilmore with a pass to Tyree Cleveland and missed a wide open KJ Hamler in overtime, waving for the ball. Well, at least the Broncos won, right? But I think we can all agree 8-2 has never felt so odd or underwhelming. It is great where the Broncos are given the last 8 years, but it's not sustainable. And the Chiefs are on the way. Andy Reid, after buys, is insanely good. I think we can all agree that it's been a rewarding first part of the season, but the Broncos cannot continue to win like this, that it's not sustainable to be this bad offensively and have this many lapses on special teams and this many penalties and win the division, which is clearly the goal that's right in front of them. Let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly as the Chiefs await next Sunday in a game. If the Broncos win, will almost certainly guarantee that they win the AFC West. It's all in front of them. Can they get these offensive issues figured out? Can they stop screwing up on special teams? I'm going to get to all of it after the break. Have you been injured in a car wreck or hurt at work? What are you waiting for? Give my friends at Hoggatt Injury Law a call. Their motto with us, it's personal. That's because it is. I've known Darby Hoggatt forever. He's a good man. He's a good person. Many of his clients become his good friend. It's not surprising if you're around Darby. Listen, you don't even have to pay Darby up front. If your case goes as planned, Darby will be the one writing checks to you. So get someone that has passion for this, that wants to help you. So again, if you've been hurt in a car wreck or injured at work, give Darby and his team a call. That number on the screen there, or for my audio listeners, 1-833-464-4288. That's 1-833-HOGGATT. That's 1-833-HOGGAT. Or visit the website at hoggattlaw.com. Welcome back to the Broncos pod. Broncos country, thank you for joining me from wherever you are. I never thought we would be talking about a Broncos team 8-2, leading the NFL in victories at 8 until the rest of the schedule plays out on Sunday, and being so unfulfilled, so concerned, walking out of Empower Field at Mile High with boos still ringing in the ears after a win. But it was that kind of night offensively. I'm going to give you a couple of stats so you don't think I'm crazy, that your eyes are not lying to you. Here's the first one. Not since 1971 has there been a Broncos game with each team having 10 or fewer first downs in the game. The last time this happened, 1971, the Broncos beat the Bears 6-3. It's only the second time since 1950 that both teams, meaning the Raiders and Broncos, had more penalties than first downs. And the last time it happened, it involved expansion teams. I think we can all agree Thursday Night Football, for the most part, the product sucks. And it's going to sound like an excuse. Some of these are reasons. Some of them are excuses. Take them as you wish. But I do believe the schedule has caught up to the Broncos, becoming the first team to not have a bye after London, west of the Mississippi, has played a role. They look tired. They look mentally fatigued. They look physically fatigued. They're into it, but their bodies are telling them they need a break. And you look at the way these games have gone. You go Monday night, Bengals, short week to Philly, Philly to London, London back home without a bye, and then Giants, Cowboys. You have a home stretch, obviously. Giants, Cowboys, Texans, and then last night, a Thursday night game. It's just a lot to where during this stretch, 5-6 games, 3/4 of these games, it has been unwatchable offensively. And it's been confounding. And it initially, less with me, but I mean, I'm certainly part of it, was, the focus on Sean Payton as a play caller. And so now it's more on what is going on with this offense? But before that, I do want to start out because it is a Victory Friday. Let's start with a positive, and then I'm going to break down what in the hell is going on with Bo and the special teams. But let's start there. How in the heck are the Broncos winning a game where they have 220 yards offensively and 10 first downs? How is that even possible? Well, it's their defense. Their defense is a championship caliber defense. They have the most sacks through 10 games since 1989 Minnesota Vikings. They get after the quarterback, they pressure the quarterback, they hit the quarterback, they make them uncomfortable. Whether it's Geno Smith, Jackson Dart, Justin Fields, pick a guy. And then the challenge is going to be much steeper, obviously, with Patrick Mahomes coming to town. But the defense, if they were creating like a pie graph of how Broncos win, because Sean Payton is fond of saying, citing his mentor Bill Parcells, there's a way to win every game. Meaning a way to win it. Sometimes you got to outscore them track meets. Sometimes you got to put the boxing gloves on and grind it out. And sometimes you have to get lucky, whatever that is. And that's kind of Peyton's belief. Hey, we're 8-2 and we found ways to win. But if you were to create a pie graph, a distribution chart of how they win, like things that must happen for the Broncos to win, right now it looks something like this. And let's say 50 things are needed to win an NFL game. The defense would be required to do like 43 things. The offense would be required to do 4, and then the special teams 3. It is so unbalanced how they're winning that it's not sustainable. I think we can all agree on that. You can be happy they're 8-2. You should be. You lived through the last 7-8 years of the absolute bullshit and the quarterback carousel. You deserve 8-2. It is your record. They're not changing it. You can only play your schedule. But, folks, they trailed in every game this season, right? You know this, right? I'm not surprising you if you listen to this podcast or watch me on YouTube. They've trailed in every game this season and have 8 wins. The other 5 teams who've trailed in every game this season have combined for 9 wins. They're teams like the Titans and the Saints. They're bad teams. Every one of those other teams has a losing record. So you're winning because your defense is playing at a historically great level, especially with pressure and sacks. And you're winning because you've had some fourth quarter magic. You win despite your special teams on nights. Last night, they got a huge block, but it helped cover up for 3 to 4 shank punts. But the way they're doing that, it's just not sustainable, right? But give the defense credit. 6 sacks. Nick Bonito played out of his mind. Zach Allen, J.J. Light playing out of his mind. They used the blitz with Talanoa Hufanga in one case on a 4th down. Vance Joseph is been completely in his bag. He needs to be a head coach after this season. He's so much better prepared than he was when he was the Broncos coach and lost that job in, after the 18th season. He's ready. I could think of a few places, but, he coached a long time in Cincinnati. And if that job opens up, I would love to see him get a run at that. He deserves to be a head coach, folks. I think you can see it. His demeanor. When he was in Arizona, he learned to deal with the behind-the-scenes stuff, ownership, schedule, all that stuff better. He'd be able to pick his own staff. Vance Joseph, the way this defense is playing 100%, deserves to have another opportunity to be a head coach. But he's dialing it up every week, folks. And he's got the personnel to execute the plan. They play unselfishly. They do everything well other than like first drives and sometimes too many penalties. They've been great. You can definitely argue they're the best defense in football. They're right there along with the Texans and a couple other groups. But this defense, at one point, when I say the defense mauled the Raiders, you see that D mauls the Raiders. The Raiders had 7 straight drives without a first down. And they're terrible. They're 2-7. Geno Smith looks done at times. I think he's got 12 picks and 11 touchdowns now. I mean, he's had an awful year. And he was really good for a couple years in Seattle. I'm not saying he wasn't. And he made them trading Russell Wilson look really good for a couple years there. But he is not playing well this year. But again, the defense can only play who's in front of them. They played great throughout the game. And when you look at these overall statistics, you're talking about Genty, 19 carries for 60 yards, 3.2 a clip. And the Raiders' team offensive stats, folks, 4 for 15 on 3rd down, and 188 total yards in an NFL game. I mean, that's a game you should win. I picked the Broncos to win, I think 28-10, 27-10. You do if you have any offense. The defense did exactly what I thought they would do. The offense, oh man, what a mess. But before we jump to it, give him credit. This is no Surtain. He's missing. That hurts. They've moved some parts around. Jahdae Barron, I thought, other than once where he lost a guy in coverage, played better last night. Chris Abrams-Drain has held his own. Riley Moss looks good on the corner. Dre Greenlaw played significantly more snaps, and he's been a force, an absolute force in the run game. He's given them a lift. This is a really good team defensively. A really good unit. But folks, it's like a pitcher or a team in baseball where you're trying to win 1-0, 2-1 every night. Eventually, your starting pitch, you can't hold up to that. And that's what they're unfairly asking of this defense, to just carry them to where, like, they need to pass out Doan's pills for back pain after every one of these games recently outside of the Cowboys. That you're asking too much of the defense. So hopefully with a mini bye, clear your head, be off this weekend, you come back because, oh, this is going to bother you. Did I tell you that Andy Reid is 22-4 coming off buys? And we're all over the Chiefs. Everyone. I appreciate and respect the Chiefs. These Chiefs aren't the same old Chiefs. They're not as good. They don't run the ball well. You can run on them, but they're the Chiefs. I am tired of hearing people saying they're the best team in the league at 5-4, as if they didn't lose to the Jaguars, as if they didn't lose to the Bills. Like, come on now. They get Rashee Rice back, and you think they got Jerry Rice back. Like, enough. We get it. They're really good. They usually win the AFC. We get it. But if you can pressure Patrick Mahomes, if you look at his worst games of his career, Tampa Bay Super Bowl, Eagles Super Bowl, when the Broncos beat them and broke that ridiculous 16-game losing streak to the Chiefs, you pressure Mahomes, he will look mortal. And he's had those kind of games against the Broncos, frankly. And they don't run the ball, so they get one-dimensional. They're beatable, but beating them after a bye, not easy. And you need to split with them to make sure you win the West. And I think, if memory serves, the Broncos are like 3-18 in Kansas City in December as a franchise. And that's when they play them on Christmas Day. Don't have it come down to that game. Beat them now, and you virtually assure you're winning the AFC West, because they're not at 5-5. They're not going to catch you. They're just not. They're not. They're going to run out of time, and the most they could do is tie you in head-to-head. If they beat you, you give them life, and you give them a chance to backdoor you, to get out and finish and scoot around you at the land on the taking the under the apron and passing you down that stretch. So give the defense credit. Unbelievable performance, holding the Raiders to 10 first downs, only 6 passing, 188 yards. DeAndre Tillman with another great interception and run after catch. Put this guy at tight end, for the love of God. He gets more yak yards than their tight ends. But give him credit. But there's real concerns. When you walk out of a stadium and your team's getting booed in a win, what the hell? Was it warranted? I understand the frustration. I totally get it, because what we watched last night offensively, the alarm bells are ringing. What is going on with Bo Nix? What is going on with the special teams? What does that all mean? We're going to get to that after the break. Listen, we all face curveballs, from family challenges, divorce, legal separation, child support, alimony, custody. You need a lawyer in these cases, a lawyer who understands human dynamics, the courtroom, and is willing to fight for your rights. You need Ted Shih. He's a graduate of Cal Berkeley Law. Ted brings 40 years of courtroom and 20 years of family law experience to your corner. Ted's been a social worker, a police detective. First and foremost, he's a trial lawyer. He's tried cases across Colorado and the country. Martindale-Hubbell ranks Ted among the top lawyers in the U.S. Excuse me. You want an expert to navigate your challenge? Call Ted. His passion is putting you first. Ted will work to settle your case, but he's not afraid to go toe-to-toe in a trial. Ted can be reached at theoshee@aol.com or 303-475-2981. That's 303-475-2981. Ted promises to respond to your concerns within 24 hours, 365 days a year. Well, listen, welcome back. Troy Renck here from the Denver Post. Hope you're reading my column. My column lead today was 5 minutes before kickoff, Thunder races down the field and takes a dump at the 5-yard line. And it wasn't disgusting. It was foreshadowing. This Broncos offense scares no one right now. The defense does. But folks, we got to agree, like, you can't keep winning this way, being this inept offensively. It's just not a business model that's going to work. So what in the hell is going on? Got to take a drink here. Bo Nix is regressing this season. And it's not alarming because it's fixable, but I think we can all agree he is. Like, his overall projections, he's still going to have around 30 touchdowns, 12 picks, a year you would take, but it doesn't pass the eye test. They've had, again, over these last 5 or 6 games, 3 of the 4 quarters have been absolutely brutal, brutal football. Whether it was the first 3 quarters at Philly that required them to have an historic comeback on the road, whether it was the last 3 quarters against the Jets when they couldn't even get a first down until they finally had one on the last drive for a field goal, whether it was the first 3 against the Giants where they had 0 points, 0 against the Giants at home while honoring the Super Bowl 50 team, whether it was not Dallas but Houston where they just struggled to get in the end zone, and then this past week a Thursday night game where they get 1 touchdown and were set up multiple times. There was a sequence, folks, where they had the ball like 36, 33, and 12-yard line and got 3 points. When they were in the 30s, they had a 3rd and 1 and tried a trick play with Cortland Sutton. On 3rd and 1 with Dobbins running well, he had to wisely take the sack. It was going to be a throwback play to Bo Nix, like on a wheel route. Not open. He's totally covered. And then knocked him out of field goal range. And then they get a situation where they try that one was where they took the 59-yard field goal that Lutz missed by about 20 yards short. Then they go backward again after the Tillman pick, and they finally score and get a field goal to seal it when they got the ball to the 12-yard line. It's just offensively, it's not good enough. So what is going on with Bo Nix? Chase Daniel, if you go to his Twitter feed, former Missouri quarterback, he's a college football commentator. He played for Sean Payton. He said some of the same things I've said, and I raised this point in the summer, so I'm not just like all of a sudden like, what's wrong with Bo Nix? Bo is dealing with some mechanical issues. My baseball background goes to this, like, he is mechanically flawed at times. He's got happy feet. He's not staying squared with his shoulder. He's also changing his arm slot, sometimes unnecessarily. And he's feeling pressure that's not there. And I don't know exactly. You're never going to get an honest answer about this until after the season. Is it because he can handle so much mentally from Sean Payton, where he's treating him like an 8th-year quarterback, not a 2nd year, that for me, he's processing so much mentally, it is slowing him down physically. He's not using his athleticism. I can't tell you how much over these last 5-6 games he's had a chance to run and take off with just a wide open swath of field in front of him and nothing. And that's telling me his brain's just like, must look, and you're just not instinctually reacting to what's in front of you. And it's gotten progressively worse. He now has 3 games they've won this year where he's had a completion percentage of 57% or below. He had one with a 48%. And it's not like we haven't seen him play like this. He did the first 4 games of last season. And then the final 12 games, he caught fire. But I think a couple of things have happened. And some of this is theory, some of it's based in statistical evidence. Teams defend a quarterback differently when they get film on him. Teams are forcing Nix to do things he doesn't like to do, which is throw deep, throw deeper, sit and analyze it. And Vance Joseph said this about CJ Stroud last week. Like, the worst thing you can do sometimes with a young quarterback is blitz him and make decisions easy for him. Well, blitz, hot route, boom, ball out, kind of create tempo and rhythm for him. With Bo, teams are playing back. They're forcing him to read, forcing him to go long to the sideline. The deep ball this year has been completely ineffective. He and Troy Franklin, I think, are 2-16 now, if I have that stat right, on passes of like more than 15 yards, where they're just totally out of sync. But Bo's not throwing that ball well either. It's like he's so afraid to throw a pick it's just completely loose. Or he just last night there were times I felt like he was just throwing it up for grabs, like this desperate seeking to make a play. One of his picks was into double coverage, like no chance of being completed. If you want to say it's a punt, fine. But the crowd was booing him and booing. And Bo said afterward, and I apologize, I don't have sound today. I was on deadline. My story had to be filed basically at 9:45. So I could not run down to the locker room and get sound and file my column on deadline. And thank you to all that read Broncos Country and all that listen to this. I can't thank you enough for how much you make it fun and rewarding, knowing you guys are out there supporting my work. But I'd normally be in the locker room with sound. But I could tell you, Bo Nix was asked specifically. Mike Kliss of the Night News asked him about what is it, like getting booed in your own field. He's like, listen, I've been booed before. It won't be the last time. It stinks to kind of get booed at your home field, obviously. But he like understood it. J.K. Dobbins said afterward, like, I'm with you, Broncos Country. We got to be better. We can't ask the defense to do this. And Mike McGlinchey said the same thing, that like we can't keep doing this and winning. You can't be one of the most penalized teams. They should be ranked first in penalties, if not in numbers, certainly in yards. You can't have the most penalties, offensive bar and stretches for 3/4 of games and win consistently. Like it just doesn't, the math doesn't math. Now, again, do we give Bo Nix credit for amazing fourth quarters? Yes, you do. I'm not discounting that. I'm not that. He's got a clutch gene about him. I'm just saying, if you're looking at a team that could win a playoff game or win 2 playoff games, the way they're doing it now, not going to work. Not going to work until Bo gets more consistent. He's just not playing well enough for them to get into rhythm. Now, again, I've talked about the mechanical stuff. I think at times his mind processing so much has slowed him down physically. And I do believe, and so for all the blame of Sean Payton as a play caller, he's dialing up plays that are open, folks. Now, does he still share some of the blame? Of course he does. Of course he does. That when you get into 3rd and 1 and you don't run, and Sean not recognizing, like in game, I don't care what this waffle menu play sheet says, that we're running the hell out of the ball, just keep running it. J.K. Dobbins and our line are going to win this game. Like he gets out of strength just feeling like this gravitational pull to do what's on the sheet. Just watch the game. Trust your eyes. So, yeah, some of that's on Sean Payton. But what they need to do starting next week, and this is a mini buy, you do the self-scout and all this kind of stuff. I get it. Your offensive identity moving forward needs to be as a run-first team. J.K. Dobbins is one of the top 5 backs in the league right now. You're winning on your win block rate. That is where you need to start. And if that means being more creative in the run game with the way you use it, including with Bo Nix and called design runs and RPOs, that needs to be the base to create ways for Bo in play action to make it a little easier. One side reads for him, so less progressions, less thinking. And then the final thing of that is, as you run the ball, as you establish that identity, then mix in up tempo. Bo Nix is clearly better in up tempo. And it's never going to be the staple of an offense. It can't, because it'll keep your defense on the field too long in terms of time and possession. And, they've had these 3 and out drives where you're talking about 80-second drives. The Broncos last night, I mean, they had an endless amount of drives that were just so fruitless. And how do they win? Well, the Raiders went 7 straight drives without a first down, folks. Have I mentioned? They mentioned that the D mauled them. But as you establish a run-first identity, as you establish play action, as you use Evan Ingram more, he still is only used when the play's called to him. Bo never finds him as a secondary receiver, only when he's the primary play. And that has got to change. They've got to win in the middle of the field. And then as you do this, sprinkle in some up-tempo. Because here's my theory, and no, this is not based on fact, but theory. Bo Nix last year as a rookie went right from Oregon, nearly won the Heisman Trophy, trained right, never really took a break, trained for the combine, put on a show in March in the Broncos workout. We had like 1 incompletion on 85 passes, went straight from there to April minicamp, never stopped, just never stopped. And after a great rookie season, and by any measure, it was a great rookie season. So don't discount that. Don't play revisionist history. It was a great rookie season, especially the final 12 games. He took some much needed time off. But I wonder if he's going to look back on now and say, I need to do it differently in how much time I'm off. Maybe it's never more than a week, take a week after the season. And then after that, never more than like 3 days without throwing, whatever that number is. This is just me again, how pitchers kind of do this. He just looks like he's out of rhythm. And we saw this in training camp. I wrote about it. Like he never was stacking days. He would show glimpses, like the scrimmage day against the Cardinals. Man, great day. Couple of those days in Santa Clara. But the games were ugly. The preseason games, very similar to what we've seen so far in multiple games this year. And it's like some of it was like, is he taking it for granted what he's seen and not going through the progressions? And then at times it just looks like Peyton is coaching him so hard. His expectation is so high. I get it. And Bo wants that. He's the coach's son. It's slowing him down. It's so much mentally, it's slowing him down physically. And we're not seeing his gifts. We saw his gifts last year. The other thing, if we're being completely honest here, he doesn't have great weapons. Troy Franklin's a nice piece, but if you rank the number 2 receivers on contenders, he would be very, 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 very limited and low on that group. So that comes into play. You sign Evan Ingram and you don't use him. Evan Ingram had 3 targets, no catches last week. And this week, Evan Ingram, did he have 1 catch? 5 targets, 2 catches, 12 yards. So he's had 8 targets the last 2 weeks for 12 yards. Doesn't work. He's got to be better. They've got to scheme it up better for him. But again, Bo needs to take this weekend, this long weekend, to clear his head. And Sean Payton needs to reassess when they get back to work on Monday. Who are they and how do we play our best offense? And for me, it's very clear. Run first identity, play action, allow Bo to be part of the run game, and create ways for him on these deep strikes where on play action they're more open and they're on bootlegs and rollouts where he has options, and sprinkle in some up tempo. Because Bo Nix on 2nd and 8, 3rd and 7 in shotgun with no running back is not working. It's just not. You can say whatever you want. It's not. And I've been a fan of Bo Nix. I love the fact he has the clutch gene, folks. You can't teach that. That's a huge advantage. Huge advantage. I love that he shows composure after mistakes. And he stays fairly even keel. But he's playing, even for his personality that's even keel, he's playing the position like an emotional tantrum. The fact that you watch it and you're like, you want to play with emotional, but not be emotional. And his game feels emotional, where it's like reach, desperate, this, really conservative, really outlandish. Like they got to find a middle ground. And he got booed. He earned it. Peyton said after the game that, hey, we're 8-2. We got to clean stuff up. There's no way Peyton is watching this film today and being like, we're okay. And when Chase Daniels comes out on Twitter and basically says, Bo's missing throws, Bo's doing that, he's in that offense. Chase Daniels was in that offense. He knows what it should look like, and it can't look like this. It can't look like this if you're going to beat the Chiefs next Sunday, if you're going to win 12 games and win a division. So do we have context? Yes. They're 8-2. You should be happy based on what you have experienced Broncos country the last 8 years. But you also have to be realistic that there's going to be a regression to the mean and a course correction here quickly, like a hitter who gets a bunch of bloop hits and all of a sudden throws out a 1 for 30. There's going to be a course correction here if they don't become more functional offensively, because you just can't continue to win like this. And that brings us to our last point, kind of by the numbers. Darren Rizzi, I wrote a column about this that finally this week, and I was in front of him asking him. He was accountable. He was inspiring more confidence because he wasn't before. He was in the press conference making excuses. And him not answering why the hell Marvin Mims was in a game and ended up with a concussion and is missing 2 games because of him. It was ridiculous. Skirting blame. And if you're going to blame the guy who went in and told the wrong guy to come out, stop. You're the coordinator. You're on the field. You're on the sideline. You walk over to your 2-time All-Pro punt returner and return man, tap him on the shoulder and say, Marvin, you're out. And instead, he gets a concussion. He's missed 2 games. And they miss him offensively because he's a guy that helps get Bo going. Every once in a while with a big play that kind of, when they're doubling Cortland Sutton, Mims can be that guy that kind of shakes him out of the doldrums. He hasn't been available for 2 games. So that's part of it. But they finally, Darren Rizzi can look in the mirror and not be ashamed of his special teams because they had a blocked punt. J.L. Skinner literally headbutted the punt, and it set the Broncos up for the winning field goal. And I wrote this about Rizzi. You're not firing Rizzi, nor should he be fired. When you look at his last few years with the Saints, he had one of the best special teams units in the league for 4 or 5 years with Peyton and after Sean Payton left the Saints. But they've been terrible here in Denver. Every week, it's like the Gordie Howe hat trick. Big kickoff return, punt return, missed field goal, late hits. Just dumb shit that you can't do if you're going to be a championship level team, if you're going to win in the playoffs. But last night, a huge block punt that they needed. The problem was it only kind of evened the ledger in the plus-minus game because Jeremy Crawshaw, who's been really good, the rookie punter, looked like he'd never punted and win before. Like his drops were so messed up. At one point, you can find this on Twitter. I think I retweeted it, but it's on Twitter. He punted a ball with his ankle. What? I mean, he had a 51-yarder, but in a stretch, it was like 30, 36, 38. Like, what in the hell? And then he started going end over end, and he got back into a little bit of rhythm. And I didn't see Crawshaw again. Full transparency, I could not get down to the locker room because of the fact of my deadline. You literally can't take the elevator down and lose 14 minutes when you're trying to write essentially like 1,200 words in about 32 minutes. You can't lose 14 of them in an elevator. Got to make deadline, folks. And it's harder when there's no outcome. When that game was down, you weren't sure where it was going to end up. It's easy to make deadline if it's 32-10 going into the fourth quarter. But Crawshaw had a bad night, and he's prone to that because we saw it in the summer, but he's been the least of their worries. But give him credit for this. They blocked a punt. J.L. Skinner, he's a crash out guy, as Luke Evans said in his story, where he'll do anything to get through it. He did. But again, folks, you can't keep doing it this way. You can't be in an offensive coma for 45 to 50 minutes and beat good teams. And they're coming on the schedule. Chiefs, Packers, Chargers. So if you lose to the if you get swept by the Chargers and lose to the Chiefs, you're in danger of losing the West. If you split with the Chargers and Chiefs, you're winning the West. It's that simple. And that would be a great accomplishment for a team with still carrying dead cap money from Russell Wilson, still trying to come out of the dark ages of everything that happened for 7. They had went, 8 straight years without a playoff berth, 7 straight losing seasons. To win the West for the first time since 2015, no matter what it looks like, would be significant. But those of us who are out there almost every day and certainly at every game, it's just there's such optimism that if they get functional offensively, basically how they were last year at the end of the year, this could be a team that could get to an AFC championship. This could be a team that could win a playoff road game because their defense is so special. But you can't do it when you're one of the most penalized teams in both number of penalties and yards. You can't do it when your special teams unit is constantly playing captain sabotage. Last night, thankfully, had a huge moment. And you can't do it when your quarterback is completing around 55% of his passes and underwater on that mark for long stretches of a game. It just won't work. But the final by the numbers, they're 8-2. And you should enjoy that. And enjoy the red zone. Enjoy your family this weekend, Broncos country. I'd say go watch the CU game. But after being in Boulder last weekend, I wouldn't wish that on anyone, and they're on the road. So at least Juju Lewis gets to play. Maybe there's something there. But the Broncos are 8-2. They have a chance to take a big, long, deep breath, sigh of relief, get refreshed. They need it. The schedule has screwed them. The schedule is what it's laid out. You got to play it, but not having that bye after London, I think, has caught up to them. I think they're mentally and physically fatigued. Can they hit the reset button, the recharge, plug the iPhone back in? In the case of the offense, put it in a bag of rice, figure it out, and come back. Because if you beat the Chiefs, you don't have to answer any of these damn questions. You beat the Chiefs 7-3, 3-0, 2-0. Nobody will give a damn. But when you do it against the Raiders and have 220 yards offense, people will think you're a fraud contender. You will not have to answer that question if you beat the Chiefs in any fashion. So take a break, Broncos country. Enjoy the weekend. I could not do this pod without Darby Hoggatt, my A1 from day one, Hoggatt Injury Law, Ted Shih and Ted Shih's family law practice, of course, and my guys, Nate Lundy and Danny Bailey, Mile High Sports. Danny's behind the screen making the magic work. Enjoy your weekend. Broncos country, I do this pod for you. Happiness that begins with me. Go out there and have a great day.